Wonderful. Hello, my name is Ines and welcome to my home in Hamburg. I'm super excited to share maybe 45 minutes with you on a really important topic. It is conflict in projects. And I'm sure that you have experienced difficult situations where you felt uncomfortable. And yeah, maybe it is a conflict, or maybe also a conflict at home where you say, well, how do I actually deal with it? How can I deal with it in a more relaxed way in the future? Who am I? My name is Ines. I'm an expert in turning projects around. I'm an expert for global projects. So everything that is difficult, everything that is challenging, in particular on a global scale, that's where I have a lot of experience, and that's where I really thrive. I have 23 years on my belt in international project management. I have had several multi-million dollar projects that I've led with clients, and I'm also a serial entrepreneur. So I have established, created, and sold 5 companies. So that is, let's say, my background, a very, let's say, rounded and rich background. And what I will be sharing with you at the end of this conversation is I've also created a project excellence coaching program. So let's dive in. What will be sort of the structure for the next 35 minutes is I will share a little bit about conflicting situations, really difficult situations that I have faced in my career. And in the next step, I will also share with you what are usually the reasons of these conflicts and what type of conflicts do we face in a professional environment. And then also tips on how to manage them. So what can you actually do in order to resolve the conflict and lead everyone in this situation to a good solution, a good and, let's say, the best solution for the project. Because as a project manager, that is your task. It's really finding the optimal solution for the project, for the business case, and in a further step for the client or for your company. So what were some of the, let's say, really difficult and challenging situations that I have been in? One situation was at a pharmaceutical company where the goal was to implement a new IT system for the support group. So really to make the support group, the ticketing, the changes within IT systems more efficient, and they used a new solution. The headquarter in Japan had already designed the new processes that should have, let's say, global reach. So Japan really wanted to have standardized processes within the company. So the standards that were developed and designed in Japan to be rolled out to Europe and to the US. Fair enough. That's what a lot of global companies do. They really want to harmonize and standardize their processes. The tricky part in this situation is when you have specific local requirements. So local requirements that divert from the standards. And it's not about, let's say, yeah, we always have done it in a different way. It was more legal and regulatory requirements that were differently on the local level. And if you have legal and regulatory requirements, you have to deal with them. You have to address them. So no matter how standardized your process should be, if there are legal requirements that are not covered in the global process, you need to change the global process. Otherwise, you're not compliant. And in particular, when you're working in a highly regulated environment, being non-compliant is not an option. It is not an option. So the really challenging situation in this setup was to raise the awareness on the headquarter that there were different local requirements, because it was not really clear for them why there were differences. They had the impression that, let's say, the quality requirements worldwide were the same. But even though when you're working with, let's say, global standards, quality standards, often the local authorities interpret these standards differently. So, you know, it's not black and white. So yes, there is a global standard, but if the local authorities use them differently, there is, you know, so much you can do. So it was really important to not only raise the awareness, but also prove and build the business case that this global process needs to be adopted on a local level. And this was, yeah, we had a lot of conversations, a lot of discussions to really get the customization done. And what it was under a very tight time pressure. When I joined the project 6 weeks before the rollout as a new project manager, because the original project manager was sick. So I had to jump in and this conflict still was not resolved. So my activity or my task within, I think, the first 2 weeks or after the first 2 weeks was actually to stop the whole rollout, and to put the status of the project from greenish yellow to red, to true red, and say we will not go live in 6 weeks. This is just not realistic. And taking this heat and communicating why a project that was sort of greenish yellow was suddenly red, and why we had to stop the rollout. There were a lot of heated discussions, but it was the right thing to do. And we rescheduled, we replanned, and 6 months later we had a really good go live. And as a project leader, you are here to really either take decisions and take tough decisions, or enable and not only encourage the top management to take decisions, but also to enable them and track those decisions down. So it's not like, yeah, please could you decide in the next 6 weeks or 6 months. You need in the next 5 weeks so I can move forward. So that this was a very heated, tough conversation and decisions, and there were also a lot of emotions. Even though, in particular, when you say the Japanese culture, the German culture, online via Zoom or via the camera, you don't see or feel the emotions that much. So it's very difficult to detect that there are really emotions, but you can be sure that there are frustrations, and anger is also an emotion that you need to deal with. But I will address this topic later. So the second situation was also a system implementation, a document management implementation in an engineering company. And the new system that was implemented had a very, very strong connection to SAP. And the idea was to harmonize the data, to harmonize the master data, so that you have basically one source of truth where the data is created and managed, and then every following system has the same data, and there are no errors in between, there are no double data. So it's really a very clean line of data management. The issue in this situation was that with this new system, the creation of the data moved from one engineering system to another system. And the fear was that the engineering team would lose the power and the authority of creating this data. So they would lose the power of creating their engineering data because they had to use a different system. And this was also a very heated conversation because it was their data. So no one was allowed to touch their data. And having it in a different system, or having the creation process in a different system, having, let's say, the master data management in a different system, felt like they are losing power. And in a lot of these conflicts, it is really the lack of trust and the fear of losing power and influence is something that really causes conflicts. And finding the reasons, the true root cause of this conflict sometimes really takes time and energy to then find a good solution. So that was also quite a tricky task. And the third situation, and you see, I have done quite a lot of digital transformation project, was also as part of an IT implementation. And in this situation, we had to get the approval from the Workers' Council, because the one of the core countries that was going to use the system was Germany, and in Germany, for this type of system, you had to have the Workers' Council approval, otherwise you could not go live. And obviously, I mean, it is the job of the Workers' Council to really care about the data of the employees and care about how much, let's say, controlling or how much tracking is there of or how much performance tracking is possible with a new system. But the new system was not, the purpose was not performance tracking at all. So it was also a very intense conversation and explanation, and bringing the Workers' Council in to really understand what is the purpose of the system, and how are the employees, or how is this performance tracking, let's say, eliminated, or the potential misuse eliminated, so that we can go live. So 3 different systems, but you see there is always some sort of frustration, some sort of I don't really trust what the other person is doing. What's the reason? And these conversations, these discussions, these conflicts are, let's say, the topic that a project manager needs to deal with and needs to resolve. So what can you do as a first step to understand the conflict and then find the solutions for these conflicts? And I'm a fundamental believer of having a detailed and really, really good stakeholder analysis. And by stakeholder analysis, for me, it's not an Excel sheet. And yes, I often do put my data and my information in an Excel sheet, but stakeholder analysis is not creating an Excel sheet, filing it somewhere and forgetting it. A stakeholder analysis is your first step in understanding who you are dealing with. So who are the key people or the key stakeholders you're dealing with? What is their role? What is their personality? What is their goal? So what is their goal within the project? And what is their goal within their company? And what role do they play? Are they people who need to deliver tasks? Are they people who can decide? Do they have an urgency? Is this project really important to them? Or is this project rather a pain to them? So you really need to understand in particular on the decision makers. And the decision makers are not always the sponsor or the top management. They are also the business, the head of the business units. And sometimes it's not even an official decision maker, but you find out that there are people who have massive influence. They are very, very well connected in the company, and they have very strong opinions, ideally in favor of this project, because then you can ride the wave and you have an ally. It will be difficult if these very connected people with strong opinions and a strong reputation are against the project. So that's where the situations really get tricky. It happens, and as a project manager or project leader, you also have to deal with it. But you need to understand and identify them and really try to find, let's say, the information and the topics, the business case that would move them towards the project goal. So what is in it for them? How can the goal of the project help them in order to achieve their goals? Most people in most companies have annual targets. They want to achieve their targets. They want to do a good job, and they want to get a bonus. That's in a lot of companies the case. So if you find a way of helping them achieve their targets, helping them to do their job better in what way or what ways soever, that's why you can bring them on board and help them to become an ally for you. So now we know all our stakeholders, we know where let's say our allies are, we know where, let's say, the people are where we need to keep an eye on, because they are not in favor of the project. So we know those people. And now let's see how we can actually address the conflict. So the first element is really to identify and create a sense of understanding. So it is not only you who needs to understand them and you who needs to understand their point, but they or the others also need to understand your points. So resolving a conflict is not one direction. It's understanding in both directions, and it is also really not only trying to communicate in a way that the others understand what you say, because just because you say the world is round doesn't mean that the other people understand what round means. Maybe round is like this and it's not a ball. So it sometimes even if you're using the same terminology, you're talking about two different topics. Maybe a better example is change management. When you're talking to technical people, to IT departments, to engineering departments, when they talk about change management, it's either changing a functionality in an IT system, changing a version in a system, or in the engineering or plant engineering setup. A change request is a new demand from the client that you need to change. That you need to change. So you have change request management, and depending with whom you're talking, it means something different. System change, requirements change. When you're talking to HR, when you talk to HR about change management, they are talking about organizational change management or people change management. So again, the same terminology, completely different topics. And that is really let's say, an effort you need to invest, is to bring people on to the same level, so that they really understand what is the issue, what is the conflict or the problem. Maybe it's not a problem, it's just a conflict, or maybe it's not a conflict, it's just a problem. That's what I wanted to say. And then also need to understand the consequences. So if you don't solve this topic, what's the consequence? What is the consequence for you? What is the consequence for them, for the project, for the company? So it's not only, yes, we have a topic here that we need to resolve. If we resolve it, what will happen? If we don't resolve it, what will happen? So it is really making the dependencies of this topic transparent is something that is really eye-opening to a lot of people in the project. So it's really establishing this understanding. The second part that requires courage is actually to address the elephant in the room. So if you are either the project manager or you're a team member and you sense there is something off, there is, it does not work or whatever, it's having the courage to address it in a respectful way, to bring it to the table. And depending on the topic, it could be wise to have a conversation over a coffee with one-to-one with one person, and then prepare the conversation in a wider group. So you really need to understand the stakeholders and how you need to address the elephant in the room. Is it easy, or do you need some preparation? That is stakeholder management. And then when it comes to finding a solution, and you're addressing the elephant, and sometimes people are super frustrated or super angry, and you see the emotions, and you may have experienced in different situations when some persons are really angry and they are just fuming, and you come then with the sense of, okay, let's be logical. Don't be so silly. Let's get down to the facts. So when you're addressing someone who is fuming from emotions with, let's be logical, that doesn't work. It will only make the situation worse. So one of the elements that you can do is actually address and acknowledge the emotions. And I'm not talking about making the emotions bigger and bigger and bathing in the whole drama, but just addressing them. And by addressing them, as an example, if this person is super angry or maybe super frustrated, why you say, you are frustrated. I see your frustration. And then you pause. And by addressing, I see you must be angry, or I see you must be really frustrated. you give those people the possibility to, yes, I'm really frustrated. Now that is so annoying. I cannot bear the situation. So they share their emotions, and you stay quiet, and you just see how this drama is just calming down. It's like a balloon. You have this huge balloon full of emotions, and in rather than having a needle and making it explode, you open the knot, and it's like everything is more calm. And then you can say, okay, and now let's get to the logical part, now let's find a solution. So it's addressing the emotions, making them feel understood, and then let's move on. And it is a very fine line between addressing the emotions, and sometimes people, when they start getting into the complaining, I mean, it's over and over and over, and everything gets bigger, and you really need to then stop them and said, okay, understood, yeah, okay, next, and not allow them to make this whole drama even worse. So it's really to say, okay, understood, I see the frustration, so what is your suggestion to make it better, to really engage them in the solution finding? Because it's very easy to say, I'm against this is not working, this is not working, this is not working, I don't like this, that. So it's being complaining, and is so easy. Criticizing is so easy. But finding a solution and forcing, and I really say forcing people to be solution orientated, is something that's very difficult, because it's so easy to complain. But if they say, I don't like X, Y, and Z, fair enough, good. So what do you like? And forcing them to say, well, what do you like? What do you need? What do you want? Makes them think. Because just because I don't like, as an example, I don't like to work long hours. Okay, so what do you want? If I say I don't like to work long hours, what do I want? Do I want short hours, an hour, 60 minutes? Do you want 40 hours, or do you want 3 days, or what do you want? Just by saying I don't want doesn't mean, or doesn't make you knowledgeable of what you want. And this is what I mean by forcing people to focus on a solution, to focus on where they want to go, and where also the project and the whole company should move on. That's the goal. That is the goal of you as a project leader, is to bring the people together in order to find a solution. And if nothing works, and if you just cannot move, your job is to integrate C-level support, to really ask support. If you cannot find a solution, if you cannot solve a conflict or a problem, your job is to escalate to top management, or to a level up, or to whoever, so they help you get the solution. If you cannot do it, your job is to get help. That is your job. By asking for help and asking for support, you are doing your job as a project leader, because you are finding the solution, and you don't have to do everything on your own. You can ask for support, and that is your role as a project leader. So what are, let's say, the strategies that you can actually implement as a setup for resolving conflicts? Is building and establishing trust. Building and establishing trust within your network, within your stakeholders, with, in particular, the most important stakeholders who support you, but also building a trustful relationship with people who may not be for the project, who may be against the project. But if they see you as someone reliable, trustworthy, and strong, as a strong leader, they will not make too much, they will not pick a fight with you. They just will not, because they see you're trustworthy. You're not someone who they want to play games with. So it's really having this strong reputation, trustful relationships, and yeah, full stop, trustful relationships. The second element is really not only building your network within the firm and not only within the firm, but probably when you're working with clients, within your clients, or also with the external partners, but also using the network. And if you have done a very solid stakeholder analysis, or even a stakeholder profiling, so the stakeholder map, you can actually draw the relationship web where you identify who has a relationship with whom. And then you can really understand where is your support system. How can you make your support system work to deliver on the business case, on your project? And the third element is really to ask for support. So if you have a good relationship with the sponsor, with the top management, get them involved, and get them involved early. So build a relationship and a reputation with the sponsor and with the top management, not at the point in time when you have a conflict, but you need to establish this relationship beforehand. So they need to know you are a professional project leader, you're very trustworthy, you really deliver, and they can trust you. So you need to build this relationship with the management, with the decision makers early on, and then it's easier for you to ask for support and say, please, can you do this? Can you help me on this? Can you, or what would you recommend? How should I deal with this situation? So really integrate them and ask for support. And with all these three strategies, you are leveraging your power and your influence. Because as a project leader, you have influence. And it is your job to use this influence, because you're using it for the benefit of the project. So all these topics are topics that we discuss, and work on in Passion for Projects, in my Project Excellence coaching program. These are topics, questions that we discuss in small groups and share the experience, and where I really can coach individual project leaders, account managers, entrepreneurs on managing conflicts, on managing the dependencies, so everything related to project management, and entrepreneurship in some point in time, or in some elements. That is what we do in Passion for Projects Academy. And we do this on a weekly basis. So we have, yesterday, my people in the coaching program said it's their weekly power hour. So we have a weekly power hour where they join and they can ask any question related to their projects, or sometimes even about their career. So how should they prepare for a performance review? How should they can they prepare their boundaries, because there are just too many topics on their plate? So what can they do? But also how can they involve C-level into their program, because it's not working the way they want it to. So how can you leverage the C-level support? That is in the weekly power hour, and maybe I should use this terminology more often. And we also have once a month 2 hours of a deep dive. And the deep dive is a 2-hour workshop where we really discuss and work on a specific topic. So last time was dependency planning. So we use the methodology SAFe from Agile's Scale Framework. So how do I apply a dependency planning framework in non-agile projects? So what can I use, and why is it beneficial, and how do I actually prepare such a workshop? So that was really a very intense workshop on SAFe PI planning. We also had a very intense workshop on stakeholder profiling. So how do you really get the profiling right? How do you identify the relationship web? And what is the consequence once you have this detailed stakeholder profiling? How can you use it in communication, change management, conflict management, and so on and so forth? So these are let's say the 2-hour content deep dives once a month. And then there are self-paced training modules, 9 self-paced training modules, also along the skills like conflict management, stakeholder management, communication, prioritization, boundary setting, 9 self-paced training modules. And the aim is really not only for you to get all your questions answered, but it is also a safe space. So when you join the Power Hour, you don't have a risk for your career or for your project, because there is no one from your line managers in this group, there is no one from your projects in this group. You can ask everything in a very safe space. And it is a beautiful community, incredibly empowering and positive. So it's a very energizing meeting and call. And the second element is that you can build your competence and also confidence in role plays. So if you have a situation where you said, I will have this performance review beginning of the year, I'm not sure, we can do a role play. So we can train with you these situations so that you build your confidence and competence to go into these conversations really, really well prepared and strong. And in the end, the outcome is that you will lead every stakeholder in every situation really successfully. So that's where I'm very, very proud of the people in the community. And one project manager, and she is the first-time project manager. She is now 2.5 months into the program. And in the beginning of the program, she didn't perceive herself as a project manager because she didn't have a certification. And she said, well, without the certification, I cannot be a project manager. But she is leading the project. So she is a project manager, and she needs to own the role. I am the project manager of this project. And she gave me an incredible testimonial saying that her COO is really impressed by the progress of the project, and the project has an incredible reputation. So it is, she is owning her role, she is thriving, and it's amazing to see. It's really amazing to see. On my profile, I have 3 other testimonials. So if you want to know more about what these women say, click on my LinkedIn profile and you find the testimonials. So what is the offering? No, here we have the offering. So I will really initiate the big launch on 1st of November. And I have a pre-launch offering that is 270 euros per month. And that is 6 hours of coaching per month, plus the self-paced learning and all the access to everything. Plus, if you register before the launch, so if you register by the 31st of October, you will get 1 hour of one-on-one coaching with me as a bonus, and that is worth 270 euros as well. So if you book me for 1 hour of coaching, I will charge you 270 euros for 1 hour of coaching. That is the offering. I hope this sounds interesting to you. If it sounds interesting to you, jump on a call with me, jump on a discovery call. I have 2 payment options. It's on a monthly or on an annual subscription. And that means when you choose the monthly subscription, you can be there a month, 2 months, 3 months, as long as you want. I do recommend 6 months, because in 6 months you really can have an impact not only on your career but also on your project. So 1 month is nice to try out, but it won't get you very far. So I do recommend 6 months, but you can do this on a monthly basis as long as you want, or you jump on an annual subscription. And the majority of the participants currently are on an annual subscription where they say, I want to dedicate and invest 1 year into my growth. So I hope that was interesting for you and valuable. If you have any questions, jump on a call, and I will see you in the next live. Next week, I'm on a big conference, but the week after, so I hope to